Some of you are listening to this in silence, not because the world is quiet, but because your heart has been louder than everything else around you. No noise, no one beside you, just you and the weight you've been carrying without telling anyone where it hurts. You did the right thing. You walked away when it would have been easier to stay. You told the truth when it would have been safer to stay silent. You held your ground when it cost you people instead of applause. And after that, the world did not argue with you. It went quiet. Let me tell you something gently. That silence is not emptiness. It is the place Allah brings you when He is about to speak to you in a way the crowd never could. The day you stop pretending, your soul finally speaks. Let me sit with you here for a moment, right where you are, in this exact space of your life. There comes a time when you grow tired in a way that sleep cannot fix. You are not physically exhausted. You are not even mentally overwhelmed. You are tired in your soul, tired of being a version of yourself that feels borrowed, tired of wearing a face that fits the room but does not fit your heart, tired of agreeing with things just to keep the peace, even when that peace costs you a piece of who you are. At first, you may not even realize what is happening. You just feel it as a quiet heaviness in your chest. Conversations that once felt easy now feel forced. Laughter that once came naturally now feels delayed, like you have to think before you let it out. You begin to pause before you speak, not because you are afraid, but because something inside you is checking whether your words still match your values. And that is when your soul begins to speak, not out loud. Not in a voice others can hear, but in a feeling that you cannot ignore anymore. You start to notice how often you bend yourself to fit into places that were never shaped for you. How often you soften your beliefs so they sound more acceptable. How often you hide your sincerity behind jokes, silence, or agreement. You realize that you have been living in what feels like borrowed space, a space where you are present but not fully yourself, where you are included but not truly aligned. And this realization is uncomfortable because pretending, even when it is gentle and well-intended, creates a quiet tension inside the heart. It is like carrying a weight you cannot see, but you feel every day. Over time, that weight begins to press on your prayers, your peace, and even the way you see yourself. Standing for truth does not usually begin with a bold declaration. It begins with a small, honest moment between you and Allah. A moment where you admit, Ya Allah, I do not feel right living this way anymore. It begins when your heart refuses to keep agreeing just to belong. When it refuses to keep laughing just to avoid discomfort. When it refuses to keep silent just to avoid standing out. And in that moment, you may feel fear. You may think, if I stop pretending, will I still be accepted? If I stop bending, will I still be welcome? If I stand as I truly am, will anyone still stand with me? These questions are heavy and Allah knows you carry them. This is why this stage of your journey often feels lonely before it feels peaceful. You start to feel a distance between who you used to be and who you are becoming. The old version of you knew how to move easily in every room. The new version of you starts to feel out of place in spaces that once felt familiar, and that can hurt. You may miss the simplicity of before. You may miss how easy it was to belong, how effortless it was to blend in, how little you had to think before you spoke or acted. But let me tell you something gently. Ease is not always a sign of truth. Sometimes ease comes from alignment with the crowd, not alignment with Allah. This is why Allah allows this discomfort to enter your life, not to punish you, not to burden you, but to wake you up. Your soul is no longer meant to live in borrowed spaces. It is no longer meant to survive on borrowed values, borrowed reactions, borrowed ways of being. You are being called back to something real. And real is rarely comfortable at first. When you begin to live with sincerity, you will notice small changes that feel big inside. You will speak less, but your words will carry more weight. You will laugh less at what feels empty and more at what feels true. You will walk away from conversations, habits, and even people that no longer sit well with your heart. This does not mean you become harsh. It does not mean you become cold. It means you become honest. honest with yourself, honest with your intentions, honest with Allah. And honesty has a way of simplifying your life even as it makes it more challenging. You begin to realize that not every silence needs to be filled. Not every disagreement needs to be turned into a fight. Not every invitation needs to be accepted. Not every space needs your presence. You start choosing where you place your heart, not just where you place your body. This is alignment. Alignment is when your inner world and your outer world begin to speak the same language. When your prayers and your actions no longer feel like they belong to two different people. When what you believe and what you live start moving in the same direction. But let me be honest with you. Alignment will cost you something. It may cost you approval. It may cost you comfort. It may cost you familiarity. Some people will feel the change before you ever explain it. They will sense that you no longer move the way you used to, that you no longer agree the way you used to, that you no longer stay silent the way you used to. And not everyone will be able to walk with you through that change. This is where the loneliness can enter. Not because you did something wrong, but because you did something real. Standing for truth often creates space around you, space in conversations, space in relationships, space in rooms that once felt full. And at first, that space can feel like emptiness. But if you stay there long enough, you begin to notice something else filling it. Presence. You begin to feel Allah in moments where you used to feel people. You begin to turn to prayer in moments where you used to turn to approval. You begin to sit with your own heart in ways you never did before. This is not loss. This is a shift. Allah is shifting your center. Before, your center may have been belonging, being liked, being included, being understood. Now, your center starts to move toward being sincere, being clean in intention, being steady in values, being at peace with Allah. And that center is much harder to shake. Let me tell you something important. When you stop pretending, you are not becoming someone else. You are becoming who you were meant to be. Pretending is what you learn to survive. Sincerity is what you were created to live. And Allah loves the version of you that does not need to perform to be worthy. He loves the version of you that prays even when no one sees, that chooses right even when no one claps, that walks away even when no one would have blamed you for staying. This is why this step feels so heavy and so sacred at the same time. It is heavy because you are letting go of what once held you. It is sacred because you are stepping into what will now hold you. And in this first lonely step, even if you cannot feel it yet, Allah is walking with you, not ahead of you, calling you to catch up, not behind you, watching you struggle alone, but beside you, steady and aware of every doubt, every fear, every quiet prayer you carry in your chest. So if today you feel like something inside you is rising, even as something around you is falling away, do not rush to push that feeling down. Sit with it. Listen to it. Bring it to Allah. Because this is not the day you are losing yourself. This is the day you are finally meeting yourself. And the place Allah is walking you toward is not just a place where your heart can breathe. It is a place where your soul can stand, honest and unafraid, knowing that even if the world does not fully understand you, Allah always does. Allah lets you be misunderstood, so you stop explaining yourself to the world. Let me speak to you about a pain that sits quietly in the heart, one that does not always show on the face. There is something deeply heavy about being misunderstood, about knowing your intention was clean but your action was questioned, about knowing your heart was sincere but your choice was judged. It can make you feel small, even when you know you stood for something right. At first, your instinct is to explain. You want to clarify, you want to defend, you want to be seen correctly. So you replay conversations in your mind. You imagine what you could have said differently. You think of better words, softer tones, clearer explanations. You carry these unfinished discussions with you, sometimes for days, sometimes for years. And all of that effort comes from one simple desire, to be understood. But let me tell you something gently. Not every heart is meant to understand you. Some hearts are only able to see what fits their own comfort. Some ears only hear what supports their own story. And Allah, in His wisdom, allows this to happen so that you slowly learn a powerful lesson. Your peace cannot live in people's understanding. If your peace depends on being seen correctly by everyone, you will never truly rest. Because there will always be someone who sees you through their own pain, their own expectations, their own limitations. So Allah allows you to be misunderstood, not to break you, but to free you. There comes a moment when you grow tired of carrying the weight of explanations, tired of correcting every assumption, tired of defending every choice, tired of proving that your heart is not what someone else decided it is. And in that tiredness, something begins to loosen inside you. You start to realize that your life was never meant to be a courtroom where you constantly present your case. You were not created to stand trial in the opinions of people. You were created to stand before Allah. And that shift changes everything. You begin to choose silence where you once chose defense. You begin to choose calm where you once chose argument. You begin to choose prayer where you once chose explanation. This does not mean you stop caring about people. It means you stop placing your worth in their ability to read your heart. Because only Allah can truly see what sits inside you. There is a strange kind of strength that grows when you let go of the need to be understood. It is not loud, it is not proud, it is quiet, steady and deeply rooted. You walk differently, you speak differently. You move through the world with less urgency to prove and more patience to trust. You start to realize that if Allah knows your intention, you are already safe. Let me tell you something that may surprise you. Sometimes Allah allows people to misunderstand you to protect you from their expectations. When people think they fully understand you, they often begin to place a role on you. They expect you to stay a certain way, to respond a certain way, to fit into a version of you they are comfortable with. But when you are misunderstood, those expectations loosen. You are no longer trapped in being who people think you are supposed to be. You are free to become who Allah is shaping you to be. This is not an easy freedom. It comes with loneliness. It comes with moments where you feel unseen, unheard, and unrecognized. But it also comes with something rare, peace. Because you are no longer living under the constant pressure of being interpreted correctly by everyone around you. You begin to live with a simpler question guiding your choices. Is Allah pleased? Not, do they understand? Not, do they agree? Not, do they approve? And this question becomes like a compass inside you. When you speak with intention, not with fear. When you act with sincerity, not with performance. When you walk away with trust, not with bitterness. But let me be honest with you. There will be moments when this hurts. There will be moments when you wish someone would see the good in you that you know is there. When you wish someone would recognize the struggle behind your strength, the care behind your boundaries, the sincerity behind your choices. And in those moments, take that ache to Allah. Say to Him, Ya Allah, you know what is in my heart. Because that sentence alone can carry more relief than 1,000 explanations ever could. You see, when you stand for truth, your life becomes less about being understood and more about being clean. Clean in intention, clean in action, clean in your relationship with Allah. And a clean heart does not need a loud defense. It needs quiet consistency. Over time, something beautiful happens. You begin to notice that the people who are meant to stay in your life do not need long explanations. They feel your sincerity without you having to describe it. They see your intention in the way you move, not just in the way you speak. And the ones who misunderstand you, they slowly fade, not always in anger, not always in conflict, sometimes just in distance. And that distance, as painful as it can feel, creates space in your life for relationships that are lighter, cleaner, and closer to who you are becoming. Let me share something gentle with you. Even the prophets were misunderstood. They were called names. Their intentions were questioned. Their sincerity was doubted. If the most truthful people to walk this earth were not spared from misunderstanding, why do we expect to be? But they did not spend their lives defending themselves. They spent their lives trusting Allah. And that trust carried them through every false word, every wrong assumption, every unfair judgment. So when you find yourself misunderstood today, do not immediately see it as a sign of failure. See it as a sign of transition. You are moving from living in people's opinions to living in Allah's care. And that is a far safer place to stand. Let me leave you with something to hold on to. You do not need to explain your heart to the world. You only need to keep it open to Allah. If He knows your intention, if He sees your effort, if He accepts your sincerity, then no misunderstanding can truly take away your worth. So walk gently, speak honestly, stand quietly, and let Allah be the one who knows you fully, even when the world only sees a small part of who you are becoming. Let me take you a little deeper into this, because this lesson does not end the first time your heart feels unseen. There is a second layer to being misunderstood that most people never talk about. It is not just about what others think of you. It is about what their misunderstanding begins to make you think of yourself. At first, you are confident in your intention. You know why you did what you did. You know what you meant. You know what you stood for. But when enough voices question you, when enough eyes look at you differently, a quiet doubt can begin to form. You start to ask yourself, did I do something wrong? Did I hurt someone without realizing it? Did I go too far? This is where the real test appears. Because Allah is not only teaching you to let go of people's opinions, He is teaching you to hold firmly to your own sincerity. There is a difference between reflecting and doubting who you are. Reflection is healthy. It is when you check your heart, your intention, your behavior, and you bring it to Allah. You ask Him to purify you, to correct you, to guide you. But doubt that comes from living in people's reactions is different. It slowly shifts your center away from Allah and back into the hands of the crowd. So Allah allows you to sit in misunderstanding long enough that you learn to return to the only place that can truly steady you, His presence. You begin to take your questions to Him instead of to people. You begin to sit in prayer instead of in arguments. You begin to seek clarity from the one who knows your heart better than you know it yourself. And in that space, something powerful happens. You start to hear a quieter voice inside you. Not the voice of criticism, not the voice of defense, but the voice of conscience. You begin to ask a different kind of question. Not, do they believe me? But is Allah pleased with me? This question does not create anxiety, it creates direction. Because when your goal becomes Allah's pleasure, life becomes simpler, even when it becomes harder. You no longer chase every misunderstanding to fix it. You no longer chase every rumor to correct it. You no longer chase every opinion to soften it. You begin to move with a steady rhythm, guided by something deeper than reaction. Let me tell you something that often surprises people. Being misunderstood can be a form of protection. When people think they fully understand you, they feel comfortable making demands of you. They feel entitled to your time, your energy, your emotional availability. They feel like they know how far they can go, how much they can take, how much they can expect. But when you are misunderstood, those expectations weaken. People are less likely to lean on you for what they want, less likely to pull you into roles you were never meant to play, less likely to shape you into a version of yourself that serves their needs more than it serves your purpose. So Allah allows a kind of distance to form, not to isolate you from kindness, but to protect you from being used, drained, or shaped by what does not align with who you are becoming. This is why over time you may notice your circle becoming smaller. Not because you became difficult, not because you became cold, but because your life is no longer centered around being understood by everyone. It is centered around being true with Allah. And that kind of life does not attract crowds. It attracts depth. You start to recognize people who do not need long explanations from you. People who feel your intention in your presence. People who trust your heart even when they do not fully understand your choices. These relationships are rare. They are quiet. They are steady. They are not built on performance. They are built on mutual sincerity. And often Allah makes space for these people by first allowing many others to step away. Let me speak gently to the part of you that still aches. There will still be nights when you wish someone would just see you clearly, when you wish someone would understand the care behind your boundaries, the love behind your distance, the faith behind your choices. In those moments, do not harden your heart. Do not tell yourself you do not care. You do care, and that is not a weakness. It is a sign that your heart is alive. But take that care to Allah, not to the world. Tell Him what you cannot say to people. Let Him hear the things you are tired of explaining. Let Him hold the part of you that feels unseen. Because He does not just understand you. He understands what you were trying to protect. He understands what you were trying to preserve. He understands what you were trying to obey. And there is a deep peace that comes from being known in that way. Over time, you may notice something else changing inside you. You stop needing to be right in every situation. You stop needing the last word. You stop needing people to walk away convinced. You become more comfortable walking away clean. Clean in intention, clean in action, clean in your relationship with Allah. And that cleanliness becomes your quiet confidence. You do not have to announce it. You do not have to defend it. It shows in how you move through life, in your patience, in your restraint, in your consistency. Let me leave you with this thought and let it sit gently in your heart. On the day you stand before Allah, there will be no misunderstandings. There will be no rumors, no assumptions, no half stories. There will only be truth. Your intention will be known. Your effort will be seen. Your sincerity will be clear. So if today you walk through a world that does not fully understand you, remember this: you are not walking toward their final judgment. You are walking toward His. And the one you are walking toward already knows you completely. Your loneliness is a door Allah opens, not a wall He closes. Let me speak to you about the kind of loneliness that does not come from being around no one, but from being around many and still feeling unseen. There is a moment in life when the noise fades, not because the world becomes quiet, but because your heart stops finding comfort in the same sounds. Conversations feel lighter than what you are carrying. Laughter feels distant from what you are feeling. Places that once felt full now feel hollow. And you begin to wonder, Ya Allah, why do I feel so alone even when I am not? This is not the loneliness of abandonment. This is the loneliness of transition. It is what happens when your soul begins to move into a deeper place while your surroundings remain where they are. At first, this feels painful. You look for connection in the same places you always did, but it no longer satisfies you. You reach for the same distractions, the same routines, the same comforts, and they no longer quiet the ache inside you. And this can make you feel like something is wrong with you. But let me tell you gently, nothing is wrong. Something is changing. Allah often begins to guide a person not by giving them more, but by making less enough. Less noise feels satisfying. Less company feels fulfilling. Less movement feels meaningful. You begin to crave depth instead of volume. Stillness instead of speed, presence instead of attention. And that shift can feel like loneliness, because the world is not built for stillness. It is built for constant motion, constant talking, constant reaching. So when you slow down inside, you start to feel out of place. This is where many people run back to the crowd. They fill their time, their space, their hearts just to escape the discomfort of being alone with themselves. But Allah invites you to do something different. He invites you to stay, to sit in the quiet, to listen in the stillness, to feel what is rising in your chest instead of drowning it out. Because there are things Allah wants to show you that cannot be seen in noise. There are questions He wants you to ask